For decades, Batman has been reinvented, reinterpreted, and reimagined across comics, films, television, and of course, video games. From the gothic atmosphere of Tim Burton's films to the gritty realism of Christopher Nolan's trilogy, from the detective-driven world of the Batman to the legendary Arkham games, The Dark Knight has remained one of pop culture's most enduring icons. So, when TT Games announced LEGO Batman Legacy The Dark Knight, the obvious question wasn't whether they could make another good LEGO game, it was whether they could create the definitive LEGO Batman experience. And after spending more than 20 hours exploring Gotham City, battling iconic villains, and reliving decades of Batman history, my answer is a resounding yes. Legacy of the Dark Knight isn't just another LEGO adaptation, it's a love letter to Batman in every sense of the frickin' word. While a few rough edges prevent it from reaching perfection, TT Games has delivered the most ambitious and accomplished LEGO game yet. A celebration of the Cape Crusader that feels tailor-made for us lifelong fans. Rather than adapting a single comic storyline or film, Legacy of the Dark Knight takes a much more ambitious approach. The game's campaign follows Bruce Wayne throughout various stages of his life, beginning with his childhood and continuing through his early years as Batman, before eventually exploring his role as a seasoned leader of the Bat family. Along the way, TT Games pulls inspiration from nearly every corner of Batman's history, remixing iconic moments, characters, and locations into one cohesive adventure. What could have easily become a messy collection of references instead feels surprisingly focused. Each chapter acts as a new celebration of Batman's mythology while contributing to a larger overarching narrative. One moment you're training with Talia al Ghul from the League of Shadows, the next you're taking down Carmine Falcone alongside Jim Gordon. Later you'll face Mr. Freeze with Batgirl or witness Dick Grayson's transformation from Robin into Nightwing. For longtime Batman fans, it's an absolute treasure trove. The game constantly rewards your knowledge of the franchise, whether through direct recreations of famous scenes, deep cut references, or visual nods hidden throughout Gotham. Yet despite its heavy reliance on fan service, it never feels exclusionary. Even players with only a casual understanding of Batman can appreciate the story's humor, pacing, and its emotional beats. Most importantly, TT Games avoids simply retelling stories we've seen before. While the game borrows heavily from existing Batman media, it ultimately crafts its own narrative. This culminates in a surprisingly strong finale that subverts expectations and delivers an original conclusion rather than merely recreating another familiar Batman ending. Not every character receives equal attention, however. Catwoman, despite making a strong early impression, gradually fades into the background as the story progresses. Likewise, Nightwing never fully establishes his own identity during gameplay, often feeling too similar to Robin, despite representing a completely different stage in Dick Grayson's evolution and life. Still, these are relatively minor criticisms in what is otherwise one of TT's strongest stories to date. The biggest surprise in Legacy of the Dark Knight is just how dramatically TT Games has evolved the LEGO formula. For years, LEGO games were designed primarily with younger audiences in mind. Combat was simplistic, character differences were mostly cosmetic, and progression systems rarely extended beyond unlocking new abilities. I'm happy to say that this is no longer the case. Legacy of the Dark Knight introduces skill trees, character upgrades, expanded traversal mechanics, and the deepest combat system the franchise has ever seen. Yet despite these additions, the game remains incredibly approachable and accessible. It's a difficult balance to strike, and TT Games pulls it off remarkably well. The most significant overhaul definitely comes in the combat. Rather than relying on the button-mashing encounters of previous LEGO games, Legacy of the Dark Knight borrows heavily from Rocksteady's Arkham series. Counter-based combat, enemy archetypes, combo systems, and cinematic takedowns all feel incredibly familiar to anybody who's played Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, or Arkham Knight. In many ways, the game feels like a LEGO version of these beloved titles. Building combos, chaining counters together, and finishing enemies with stylish takedowns creates a satisfying rhythm that makes every fight entertaining. Combat finally feels impactful rather than simply functional. However, the system isn't without flaws. While initially engaging, combat eventually reveals its limitations. Despite each character possessing unique gadgets and progression trees, they largely play the same during battle. Catwoman, Robin, Nightwing, Jim Gordon, and Batman all rely on identical core mechanics, which cause encounters to feel repetitive during longer play sessions. The addition of difficulty options is a welcome first for the LEGO franchise, but even the highest setting provides only the modest challenge. Experienced Arkham players will likely cruise through these encounters without much resistance at all. Still, while combat may not achieve the depth of its inspiration, it's easily the best fighting system TT Games has ever created for a LEGO game. If combat represents the game's greatest improvement, stealth is arguably its biggest missed opportunity. Batman is as much a predator as he is a fighter. The Legacy of the Dark Knight struggles to capture that aspect of the character though. Some stealth sections are overly simplistic, with enemies conveniently facing away from Batman. Others place guards so close together the stealth becomes a little more than a way to start a fight before inevitably being detected. The good news is that failure carries virtually no punishment. Being spotted simply transitions the encounter into standard combat. The bad news is stealth rarely feels meaningful or strategically rewarding. It never becomes frustrating, but it also never reaches the level of creativity or tension that the Batman fans out there might expect. As strong as the campaign is, Gotham City may be the game's greatest achievement. Spanning multiple islands packed with activities, TT Games has created one of the most impressive open worlds the studio has ever built. This version of Gotham, ultimately, just feels so alive. Traffic fills the streets, citizens populate sidewalks, iconic landmarks rise from the skyline. Every district possesses its own identity, architectural style, creating a city that feels authentic rather than simply serving as a backdrop for the missions. More importantly, Gotham embraces Batman's verticality, gliding between skyscrapers, launching across rooftops with a grapple gun, and discovering collectibles hidden throughout the skyline captures the fantasy of being Batman remarkably well. Traversal feels incredibly smooth, fast, and consistently enjoyable. The city's also overflowing with content. Hundreds of collectibles, puzzles, races, combat challenges, and other side activities are scattered across the entire map. Completionists, like me, will find dozens of hours of content waiting beyond the main story. And the Batcave serves as an excellent central hub for tracking progression, customizing displays, and unlocking a whole bunch of new rewards. At times it can feel overwhelming, but it's difficult to complain when nearly every distraction is a genuinely fun time. Visually, Legacy of the Dark Knight represents the highest point for TT Games. Gotham City looks spectacular under moonlit skies, with rain-soaked streets reflecting neon lights and towering skyscrapers dominate the horizon. Story missions feature richly detailed environments packed with references that even dedicated fans may miss during the first playthrough. The LEGO aesthetic continues to charm, but it's now backed by significantly improved lighting, environmental detail, and animation quality. Performance isn't flawless, however. Minor frame rate issues occasionally appear during larger combat encounters and the busy open world moments. They're rarely severe enough to disrupt gameplay, but they are quite noticeable. A handful of bugs have also surfaced throughout my playthrough, including camera clipping, awkward interactions, traversal glitches, and sometimes just falling straight through a building. Fortunately, none of it's been game-breaking. They're the kind of issue that future patches will most likely smooth out rather than fundamental flaws to the experience you're having. But in saying that, LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight succeeds because it understands exactly what Batman fans love about the character. It's not trying to reinvent Batman, it's celebrating him. TT Games has created an experience that explores nearly every era of the Dark Knight's history while modernizing the LEGO formula in very meaningful ways. The Arkham-inspired combat is entertaining, the story is charming and surprisingly ambitious, and Gotham City stands among the best open worlds the studio has ever built, hands down. The stealth mechanics do lack depth, character variety could definitely be stronger, and some technical issues are there, but those shortcomings do little to diminish the overall experience. Legacy of the Dark Knight feels like the culmination of everything TT Games has learned over the decades of LEGO games. It's confident, ambitious, and relentlessly fun. Most importantly, it captures the spirit of Batman, and when the credits roll, one message remains crystal clear. People love Batman, and this game understands exactly why. Well, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed the review, do please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out, and we'll keep you guys up to date with every review, every video coming to the channel. But this game is great. It's a brilliant celebration of Batman and his legacy, and could easily be considered one of the best LEGO games or Batman games of all time. I think it really makes a case for it. But yeah, honestly, be sure to let me know what you guys think of the game down in the comments below. And yeah, make sure to let me know what review you guys want to see next. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.